Right, so today's Thursday, March 17th, and today we're going to answer some of the questions that a lot of people have for bird breeders. So, what are some things that someone should look for in a bird breeder?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome myself. I'm Frederick. I am once again, and always have been, the owner-operator of Birds Inc. This is going to be our third wing at this. Today we're going to do a question and answer session in regards to what people find and how they find and questions and comments that they have for local bird breeders. So anyways, welcome. I'm Frederick, Birds Inc.
Okay, so what are some of the things I should look for in a bird breeder if I'm looking to get a bird?
If you're looking to purchase a bird, the first thing that you want to look for is, again, like we spoke to in a couple of other of our segments here, always make sure that you do your research on the person that you're looking to buy a bird from. Make sure that you're going and you're moving in the right direction. Make sure that you're doing your research not only on the person, but make sure you're doing the research on the type of bird. Make sure that that breeder is able to provide you the knowledge that you need for that bird as well. So, do the research on the breeder and find out details about that breeder, find out where their profession hangs out with that species of birds, just so that you can get a better idea and make sure that they're the right person to be sharing that information with you.
Right, and so a lot of aviaries in Alberta are actually closed aviaries. So why is this aviary an open aviary?
Well, I believe in encouraging all of my customers. A lot of the aviaries in Alberta are closed due to the general public and too many difference of opinion. A lot of people are very touchy, wishy-washy with their birds. I feel that having a more open concept and allowing the people to actually be involved in the full process of welcoming home their new baby, to seeing them hatch, to up to taking them home, is a really good step towards the right direction. And I believe it's a really good, strong motivator for new customers as well as old customers to see that I have nothing to hide. I want to welcome you all to the aviary, and I want to show you because I'm very proud of my birds and I'm very proud of what I do, and I really put myself out there. So I really like to do that to help establish my own personal reputation.
Good. And so when you're getting a bird from your bird breeder, what are some things you need to look for in terms of their health? Like, what are some common health problems?
Common health problems are crooked beaks. So sometimes you're going to have your birds that you want to watch for, that their beaks aren't overgrown or they're not crisscrossed. That's a very common one. Splayed legs is another very common one. Most of the time, birds don't live to full maturity if they do have splayed legs, because it's very hard for them to maneuver and get around. So you don't generally see that too commonly. A lot of the times that you're going to find too with some of the birds right now is you're going to find that you're going to get some that are going to have really excessive diarrhea. You're going to have some that even have a cold, maybe, where you're going to get them home and you're going to realize that they're sneezing inconsecutively or doing those kind of small things. So you really want to watch for smooth feathers. You really want to watch to make sure that the bird looks perky. Any bird that you ever notice sitting on the floor or spending a lot of time just, really to itself and being really antisocial and sleeping a lot is a very first major concern.
Okay. And so what kind of parrot species, if I'm a beginner, would be the best?
Parrot species for beginners, I don't recommend parrot species for beginners at all. And the reason for that being is parrots are extremely demanding, very temperamental, and very just drop of the hat, change their mind on how they're going to be for the day. So I don't recommend starting with parrots. I recommend starting with smaller parakeets to medium-sized parakeets and working your way into larger parrots for not only your safety, but for the safety and the well-being of the bird as well.
Okay. And is it okay for first-time bird owners to get large parrots?
Well, that really depends. That's going to be a matter of opinion. You're going to find a lot of different breeders and a lot of different people that are going to give you different stipulations on what the standard expectation is. And my standard expectation is I would not recommend, like I just said in the previous statement, that starting with a large parrot is not necessarily a wise idea, because you have a lot to familiarize yourself with first. So your best bet, even with doing your research, sometimes large parrots can be very uncontrolled, they can be very temperamental, and they can even be very oversensitive and very unforeseen. You don't necessarily know what you're getting into until sometimes with getting large parrots it's too late.
Right. So if you wanted to rescue a bird, is that okay to start off with?
Absolutely. If you do your research, I mean, every bird deserves the right to be rescued, and every bird does deserve the right to have a good home. And if you can provide that home to take them away from a situation that was not good, I mean, don't deprive a bird of that if you have the space and the time for that bird, most certainly. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got to do what's best for your household. You've got to do what's best for the bird as well. And I think both of those things work hand in hand with each other. I mean, if you've got the time and you've got the efforts to want to put towards helping that bird, absolutely go for it and take that bird in and see what you can do with it. Because birds can be a wonderful reward.
Right. So what should I expect when I first bring a bird home?
There's a lot of things that you should expect. Your first basics is, first of all, you should be aware of your diet before you bring it home. So again, with doing your research, that's going to be a primary. Make sure that you're aware of your diet. Make sure you're aware of your proper minimum cage size. That's absolutely a requirement. You know, having a bird in the minimum cage size allowed is not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people misconstrued that the cage is too small. If that's the minimum cage size that they're allowed to be in or that they're happy in, sometimes if you only have a single bird, a minimum cage size is best, because they don't feel comfortable and they need time to get comfortable before you upgrade them into a new cage. Otherwise, they can harm themselves, or they can be a lot more standoffish because there's a lot more space that they feel that they have to protect in the future. You want to look for health problems. I always recommend when you bring home a new bird that you have it vet checked. Always just make sure that when you bring home a new bird as well, that you do a minimum of a 1-week quarantine with all those birds to make sure that you're not bringing anything home to previous birds or any of that kind of stuff as well. A 1-week quarantine means keep them in a separate room, in a separate space, and then once everything seems to be fine, move it into the next step.
Right. So if I get a hand-tamed parrot from a breeder, it won't bite?
That is not the correct statement at all. Just because a bird is hand tame does not mean it won't bite you. Anything, and I stress this to everyone that thinks about getting a bird, any bird that you purchase, any animal that you purchase has a mouth. If it's scared, that's one of its only defense mechanisms, is to bite you. So, I mean, again, do not misconstrue that. Just because you buy a parrot that's hand tame, that's not the correct statement. It may be hand tame and it may have been raised hand wise, but you know, if it's spooked or if it's, you know, if it feels threatened, that's its only defense mechanism. Especially if its wings are clipped. It has no way of getting away from you. So that's the only way it can protect itself. So just remember that, you know, when you're approaching a new bird or when you're buying a new bird, just because it's hand tame, don't misconstrue that and think that it's not going to bite you, because there is a possibility that it will.
So is it better then to clip your bird's wings or to not clip your bird's wings?
You're going to find that as a difference of opinion as well. You're going to find some breeders really, and even just normal homeowners and bird owners will enjoy having their birds' wings clipped. It maintains the control, as well as it also does help maintain, you know, the structure in your household. Because as soon as a bird, any bird, parrot, finch, anything, as soon as its wings are unclipped, they put themselves at the top of the totem pole. They're in charge. So you really want to make sure that you focus. I myself personally recommend keeping all your birds' wings clipped that are going to be tame pets, because it's easier to control them and it keeps them in check, both with their attitude and with their aggression. It keeps them in check so that they maintain that stable consistency.
Okay. And so what are some questions that you should ask yourself when you're first to get the right bird for yourself?
Well, again, with doing your research, you need to find which bird that's going to fit into your lifestyle. So you should be doing your research and establishing how your lifestyle works. Is your lifestyle extremely busy? Would a finch be better than a parrot? How much time does this bird need? Does this bird need 3 hours a day? Does this bird need 5 hours a day? You know, if it's a zebra finch, can this bird just be looked at in the cage and fed and watered and be pretty? You know, you've really got to ask yourself those questions primarily before bringing home any bird, because birds are extremely heavily demanding in all situations. Every one of them has a different demand point, and you need to be able to determine when purchasing your first bird where your demand point is in your household so that they'll fit in best.
Okay, and was there anything else that you wanted to add? Or?
I don't think so. Continue following us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and check out our website. We have some new pages going on there. We also have artwork available on our website now at www.birdsinc.webs.com. Thank you for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you again next week.